July of 2012, the Sarasota Alliance for Historic Preservation has been dedicated to the renovating of the long-buried Mable Ringling Memorial Fountain in Lukewood Park. The result of those efforts, along with the fundraising, permitting, design, and implementation, has finally come to fruition.
The story begins with the wonderment of a young boy in the 1950s. Just what was this mound of dirt and weeds with 4 sets of steps leading up to it? That boy, Alliance Board member Larry Kelleher, always pondered that question. He discovered the answer at Sarasota County Historical Resources by finding 2 postcards of the fountain and reflection pool. However, that was not the end to the research. What became of the center statue and the 2 lions?
Interested friends helped Larry figure out the center statue was on St. Armand's Key, and the lions were residing at downtown J.D. Hamill Park. With that important information, he brought the idea of returning the fountain to its former glory before the Alliance. The rest, as they say, is history.
Near the end of 2010, an exploratory committee was formed consisting of Dee Calvert, Joyce Waterbury, Ron McCarty, Larry, and former board president Don Smalley. With his usual enthusiasm, only 7 months after retiring from the Alliance, Don embraced the concept and was in meetings with city officials and donors to get the ball rolling. Don, signing off as the stodgy old engineer, emailed committee members their marching orders, and by June 6th of 2011, the group received unanimous support from the Sarasota City Commission. Using his engineering expertise, his community connections, and his just-do-it attitude, the fountain you see today is a direct result of Don's efforts.
This fountain renovation was Don's final project before his sudden death on April 14, 2012, after his tireless commitment to historic preservation in Sarasota. Don, wherever you are, we're sure there's a project going on for the betterment of the community, and you're making it happen.
After a generous grant from the Selby Foundation, the process of obtaining the necessary permits began, and excavation of the mysterious mound commenced in July of 2012. The crew of Connellan and Jackson uncovered the fountain basin in record time, and within 3 hours had removed 5 dump truck loads of soil and weeds. Upon discovering the basin was 27 inches deep, the decision was made to reduce the depth to ensure efficiency and safety. Meanwhile, the statue, the cluster of young boys, was transported by the John and Mable Ringling Museum of Art from St. Armand's Key and sent to FSU's Master Craftsman Studio. The statue was placed in the capable hands of studio manager Phil Gleason, where he and his students patched the flaws of the original 1936 statue and cast it with a more durable stone composite.
And they brought it back on the truck for us, and once it was back in our studio, we cleaned it, we prepped it, and then we put some Murphy's oil soap on it as a release so that any changes we made to it from there could be properly cleaned when we were done. From that point, we began filling the cracks, crevices, and just missing pieces of concrete on the original with clay. And then we textured that clay to look like the original concrete. From there, we made a mold out of rubber, and we brushed the rubber on in layers, and we were able to build up a thick enough mold that it would give us a proper concrete casting. So once we put the rubber on, we backed it with plastic and fiber, and then we put on conduit pipes basically to give it handles so that we could manage the separate molding parts. And then we were able to peel it all apart and reveal the inside of the mold. And then from there, once we had it all cleaned up, we assembled it outside where a concrete truck came and poured us full, and then we finished it by just giving it a cosmetic face coat. And that's what you see today.
And I understand you made an addition to the statue so it could be used for a special purpose for where it's going. Could you tell us about that?
That's right. We were asked to make a 4-foot basin for the top of the fountain. We took historical photographs and looked to see what the old basin looked like, and did our best to replicate what we saw in photos. And so we have a 4-foot basin ready to be plumbed and made into an existing fountain for today. The ideas that Rob had and designed the bowl on a program called ArtCam, and we created a foam mold from regular insulation foam, and we were able to laminate it in sections and carve it into the exact shape, well actually the opposite shape that you see for the basin. And so we created a negative and then put the pieces all together and poured the concrete in, and that formed our positive.
Phil, could you tell me a little bit about the relationship between Master Craftsman Studios and the Ringling?
Sure. The Master Craftsman Studio takes some of the currently existing works on campus that have had damage, and we do our best to refurbish them and fix them up, recast them.
Great.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Florida Power and Light had to dig a bore and add a riser to bring electricity to the fountain. An unexpected expense. Thanks to the generosity of Bob Carter and the Senior Friendship Center, progress continued. Rob Crafts, the project artisan and builder, uncovered more of the original Myakka bog iron rock that, 60 years earlier, lined the rim of the fountain. Bog iron was only found in certain parts of the country and essentially is composed of ferrous oxide. Back in the day, it was smelted to extract the iron. When Rob pressure washed the step landings, the colorful grout revealed a palette like those of the Kadazan. Come May of 2013, the original statue was returned to St. Armand's, and thanks to the Sarasota County veterans, the 2 lions from J.D. Hamill Park were returned to Lukewood Park. The next step was to position the new statue and bowl in the fountain. No small task. But the men got it done, and for good measure, Rob tested it and made sure it worked. Perfect. Rebar came next, and Benito, the official supervisor, made sure it was correctly spaced. The cement was poured and worked through the mesh, leaving room to place the bog iron along the top ridge. No sooner than that step was completed when the sky opened up and it poured. Throughout the entire summer, it rained to the point of delaying further work with the lighting, transformer, pump, and other pieces of the puzzle that needed to be completed. The mosaic added to the fountain wall and plinths was not part of the original site. However, since this could not be an authentic restoration due to changes in the environment and for the safety concerns, the Alliance opted to add this decorative feature from the same influences found at the Kadazan. Joyce Hart, who joined the committee after Don Smalley's passing, consulted with Pierce Kelly, owner of Splash Mosaics. Using his expertise and countless hours, Pierce created a brick mosaic for the fountain, which honors Mable Ringling's love of roses. Pierce guided dedicated volunteers, Sarasota Military Academy cadets, and their families, who kept up the pace all summer long to get the mosaic ready to be installed. The rains finally let up, and Bob expanded the top 4 landings to accommodate the lighting transformer. He used vintage bricks the city of Sarasota donated from the old brick streets that once were plentiful here. Now it was September, and time to set the bog iron and prep the fountain walls for the mosaic installation. What a great time of year to have the cadets and volunteers gather at the park to learn how to install the mosaic and then come back the next day to grout the carefully crafted wave pattern. So many hours went into this part of the project that the result is outstanding. By now you may be wondering, what happened to the lions? 2 plinths were built by Pat Pettit, and Rob had a clever way to place the lions on them. At the same time, he had to get the ropes out from under their bases once they were lowered onto the plinths. Did he use some secret from the pyramid builders? Nope. A couple of bags of ice did the trick. Pierce got busy again and created even more mosaics to finish off the center statue plinth and the ones under the lions. Keep in mind, this mosaic is made from old brick pieces to complement the step landings. No broken tile was used, as any traditional mosaic works. Have you ever tried to knit pieces of brick pavers? Good way to build up your forearms. Now the landscaping and walkways, originally planned for 2014, became possible by a grant from the Arts and Cultural Alliance of Sarasota. Before the finishing touch, a root barrier was installed so the 75-year-old oak tree roots wouldn't creep into the fountain walls and landings. Grading the area was required to establish the plant beds and allow for shell pathways to surround the fountain. A continuation of the sidewalk was not permitted, since it would have disrupted the tree roots. All the plant materials were donated by Albritton's nursery, and Diaz Lawn Maintenance installed the irrigation and plants. A low-growth design, formulated in conjunction with the Sarasota Garden Club, was chosen so the mosaics would not be hidden, and the maintenance would be minimal over the coming years. On the final day of construction, the Diaz firm installed the shell pathway to complete the project. The Sarasota Alliance for Historic Preservation would like to give a special thank you to the William G. and Marie Selby Foundation, the John and Mable Ringling Museum of Art, the Arts and Cultural Alliance of Sarasota, the Senior Friendship Center, and Florida State University. And Don, an exclusive thanks to you for keeping us on track to continue preserving Sarasota's heritage and remarkable history, and encouraging us to return this place to its former splendor.
What better way to honor Mable Ringling, a great woman who made a difference in our community?